Sherman, Texas. I was there for the first 19 years of my life, and yeah, that's about the whole story. I think my best understanding of Christianity growing up was that Jesus loved me, and because of that, I should be a better person. I understood that I was a sinner. I got in trouble plenty growing up for dumb things, but I understood that I did wrong things, and that God knew that, and God wanted me to be this better person. So for the first 20 plus years of my life, that was what Christianity and Jesus meant to me, was that Jesus could help me become this better person. And so growing up, I constantly found myself falling short of what I thought my goals should be, and what other people at church expected of me, and what my parents expected of me, what my Sunday school teachers, my pastor. I had all these expectations, some biblical, some extra biblical, but all these things I thought I needed to do to be the person that God wanted me to be. And I thought if I didn't do those things or wasn't that person, then I was going to fall short, and the idea of heaven would just be an idea, and I would spend eternity in hell. So no matter what I did, it seemed, through elementary school and all the way up through high school and into college, I would just wanted to do the right things, and I didn't, but I tried. I tried to follow the list of rules that was given to me growing up from my parents, from Sunday school teachers, again, sermons, youth camps, and all of that, but still constantly I would mess up, and all I could do with that was just kind of beat myself down in the guilt. So fast forward to my last year of high school and my last year at youth camp, I guess it was, at Falls Creek, and Matt Chandler was there that year as our pastor, and just kind of the big theme that week that he preached was just Jesus' love and forgiveness and grace and mercy, and all of those ideas weren't things that I hadn't been told, and weren't things that I didn't grew up with Jesus and God, all the fruits of the Spirit, all these great, wonderful things, and grace and forgiveness. But I always coupled those with the fact that I didn't deserve them. And that's what everything always came back to, was I knew that Jesus was forgiving, but he was forgiving to the people that could be more like Jesus. That was what everything always moved toward, where Christians were Christ-like, or Jesus-like. So if you weren't acting like Jesus, then you must not be a Christian, which confused me because I saw plenty of the people who were teaching me as Christians that struggled too. So after that year at youth camp, I was real energized, but you know how it goes. You come back home from youth camp and fall off the spiritual, emotional high, and then it was off to college, and college was new for me. It was my first time moving away from home. By this point, my parents had split up. My sister was married, and so leaving my mom there at the house by herself, and just a whole lot of new things going on. And college was different. It was a lot of freedom, new responsibilities, but a lot more freedom to do and be whatever I wanted to be. And so the first couple of years were great, because it gave me an opportunity to kind of proverbially find myself, like everyone talks about. But it wasn't not necessarily an easy thing. There were a lot of tough times, a lot of struggles, but my sophomore year of college, I was really struggling in school. I was on scholastic probation because I just wasn't really trying anymore. It was kind of hard to see very far into my future of what I wanted or who I wanted to be. And so right around that time, when things were just really starting to look bad, I found a Baptist student minister, Baptist Standard letter or something like that in my bag that my mom had put in there. And Matt Chandler was in there. And so it was kind of like the last glimmer of hope that I kind of felt in church. Saw this guy's face, and I was living in Dallas at this time for school. And so at 3:30 in the morning, because I didn't really have a sleep time then with no responsibilities, I found him on the internet, found their church, and I found a sermon called Are There Two Wills in God? And I won't dig deep into that, but kind of the gist of that sermon was the true heart of grace and what God really wants for us. The fact that no matter what I did or anything, it wasn't dependent on me. And that was kind of new for me, because everything that I had been told was that my walk with Jesus was my walk. It was all these things that I needed to do and all these things I needed to be to become a good Christian and be the good Christian. And so when I found that letter and I heard this sermon, found Matt and all of that, and I burned the sermon to a CD, and I probably listened to it 100 times, because I just couldn't wrap my head around the fact that Jesus' love was about him and not about me, that it wasn't dependent on what I did or who I was, that he loved me as I was right then, with all the mistakes I had made, all the junk going on in my life. At this point, I had served a year at a small church outside of Sherman, and it didn't end well, and so I was real bitter at church and people in church and religion. I wasn't mad at God, because I really still felt deep down inside that he had a plan. I don't feel like I was ever left to my own. It just, I felt like I was just kind of wandering, but knew that he had this plan. And so over the years, he began to reveal that through other people, and I got plugged in at that church with a small group. Wasn't attending the services there regularly. This is when I was 19, 20, but I did get to start listening to the podcast and talking about Scripture with friends, and they just kind of opened up who Jesus really was to me, because they were living it. I was able to honestly talk about all my struggles. Being a young guy in college, struggle with lust and struggle with anger and laziness, slothfulness. I didn't really have a drive to do anything. I just kind of wanted to do me and be me, and quickly saw the fruit of that labor was fruitless. So year passes after year, and every single year that passes now, I see more and more of where the difficulties in my life have just allowed God to kind of come in and show me grace and mercy. So now whenever I mess up, even if it's something small and minute, I really try as hard as I can to remind myself of God's grace and mercy, instead of beating myself up with the guilt and the shame and try to shame myself into being this clean Christian that Jesus will love. And on that, that was kind of something that I saw change in my perspective. Was growing up in church, it was about getting all this exterior clean, not saying certain words, not watching certain movies, not behaving certain ways, treating people a certain way, but not a lot of the drive from the heart. It was supposed to come from the heart, but I didn't feel like I really understood that very well. And so I think seeing people's grace with me as I begin to struggle, seeing other people really live like Jesus and not just remind me of the law of what I was supposed to be doing, really began to change my heart. And so, ironically, as it seems to start changing who you are, because you can just rest in that grace and mercy and know that it's not about you. And when you can look back and see what Jesus did and that it's already finished, it makes it so much easier to just live. And he seems to kind of lead you the right way then, because you know that you're under his guidance and his